Hey, I'm going to talk about math and UX today. And I'm not going to talk about whether AI is coming to get your job, but I'm going to talk about whether math is coming to get your job. If you're a UX researcher, skip to the end. The answer is no. But the reason, it's worth understanding the reason, because we do want to do quant UX, we want to do more math in UX. So I'm going to chat a little bit about that, and that's actually a lead in maybe to another video where I'll talk about AI. But why not use math in UX completely? Can we get almost like physics, where you don't have much qualitative stuff at all? Why can't we do that with UX? Maybe someday we will, but we're nowhere close. And the reasons for that, I think there's three main reasons. The objects in UX are mainly people, and people have agency. Because they have agency, they behave differently under different circumstances. Electrons, for instance, or planets don't. Right away, that makes your system way more complicated. When you're having interactions between things, you're trying to understand a system through research and modeling it with mathematics or concepts or qualitatively or quantitatively. And if your objects have agency that are within the system, it makes it very complicated to try and capture mathematically in something that would fit on a mug. It's not going to be universal. It's going to be very context dependent. The next thing that makes it more complicated is it's hard to figure out what variables matter, and there's just more variables. So if you want to describe something mathematically, anytime you have a set of equations or laws, they have variables in them, and you know those variables are important, for instance. So, in F equals ma, the position's important, and the speed's important, and the momentum's important. And so you can figure out what a system's going to do. If you're looking at how people behave in a shopping mall or something like that, what's going to be important, whether they have kids or not, the temperature in the shopping mall, what they're getting that day, etc., etc. There's just so many variables, right? So capturing them all mathematically, and a mistake people make is they just capture the ones they happen to have info for. That's not a good idea. You might find some correlations. In fact, if you have enough variables, you're going to find correlations. It doesn't mean you have some sort of revelation or connection that makes sense. That's what makes F equals ma and other equations so powerful, is there's a causal aspect to them, but under the system behavior is causal. You push, you get an acceleration. When you're dealing with variables in UX, if you don't understand that cause, then you don't know if that correlation in some sense is spurious. And that's why you need qualitative research, because then it tells you your good variables. Right? The last thing, you have to measure variables. And just figuring out how to measure stuff. Measuring acceleration is relatively easy. Measuring force is relatively easy. Measuring happiness isn't. You have objects with agency, much more complicated than what's going on inside a star, for instance. Even though, it's pretty complicated to model a star, but you can. We've been able to model it since the 50s and get pretty good models of them. The variables, way more variables. It's strangely enough in a shopping mall. That's all very hard. However, if you start combining that with qualitative stuff, then you start to get a story, which is in a way what F equals ma. It's a story of how a system's going to behave. They're mathematical stories. If you combine qual and quant, then you can get a mathematical story. You can take some data, and this is how people's spending or something changes over time in a shopping mall for certain types of people or something. So you can use math, and you should use math, but it's just really hard to use by itself. Quant is not going to replace qualitative until we get this stuff figured out, and we're ages away from that. And I don't think AI is going to do it, because it's just massive crunching of this stuff in a way, but then you still don't have the causal stuff underneath. So you don't know what's going on causally. But that's for another video.